She told me, "I just want to be friends," but I found her booking a romantic getaway with him. I stood frozen in the doorway of our shared apartment, my heart thudding so loudly in my chest that it almost drowned out the sound of her voice. Sophie was sitting on the couch, laptop open in front of her, a bottle of wine between us that was still half full. She didn't even seem to notice me standing there, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Her hair was loose, the curls spilling over her shoulders in that way I used to love. But now it all felt like a cruel joke. "Who's this for?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady as I took a step forward, my hand shaking slightly as I gestured toward the screen. There, right in front of me, was a confirmation page for a weekend trip, one she'd just booked for two, a cabin in the mountains. The dates were next weekend. Her eyes flickered toward me, and for a moment, I thought she might just ignore the question. But then she looked at me, her expression flickering for a second, before she quickly closed the laptop. "Oh, it's just, I was helping Jake find a place to stay, for his trip with his sister. He asked me for recommendations." I couldn't even process her answer, couldn't understand what she was saying, because Jake was the name of the guy she told me about months ago. The one she dated briefly before we got serious. He'd been in the picture for a while, but I never thought much of it. She told me he was just a friend now, and I believed her, maybe because I wanted to believe her. But now, with her half-hearted excuse hanging in the air, I felt the weight of everything shift, like the ground beneath my feet was no longer solid. "Jake," I repeated, trying to keep my voice level, even though my throat felt tight. "You're booking a trip for him? To this place? Sophie, you told me you just wanted to be friends with him. You told me nothing was going on. What's going on?" She didn't respond right away, just stared at me, her face going pale. I could feel the tension between us thickening, like I was suffocating in the room. I wanted to shout, to demand more answers, but all I could do was stand there, staring at her, waiting for something, anything, that would make this make sense. I didn't want to hurt you, okay?" She said finally, her voice breaking, as she stood up from the couch, her hand trembling as she reached for the wine bottle. She didn't pour herself any. Instead, she just gripped the neck of the bottle like it was a lifeline. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I crossed my arms, trying to keep the anger from boiling over. What wasn't supposed to happen this way? "Sophie, you book a romantic getaway for you and Jake. You're lying to my face. How could you think I wouldn't find out?" Her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the kind of tears I was used to seeing from her, tears of sadness, of regret. No, these were the kind of tears that told me she knew exactly what she had done, and now she was trying to manipulate me into believing it wasn't what it looked like. I hated it. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. I never meant to hurt you. I wasn't planning on this happening. I thought I could keep it under control. I didn't want to lose you." "Lose me?" I asked, my voice rising despite myself. "You think booking a weekend getaway with another guy isn't going to make me think you've been doing more than just keeping it under control?" I could feel my face flushing now, the anger that I'd held back for months finally pushing to the surface. "You think I'm that naive?" She stumbled back, like I had slapped her. The defensiveness was gone now. She didn't argue anymore, didn't try to explain herself. She just looked at me like she was waiting for something, waiting for me to make a decision, waiting for me to say the right thing that would make it all go away. But there were no right words here. There was nothing she could say that would fix this. I felt the anger burn deeper. "You don't get to sugarcoat this, Sophie. You told me you wanted to be friends with him, and now you're planning a romantic getaway with him? I don't know how many times I have to say it. This isn't what friends do. And I'm sick of being the guy who trusts you, only for you to turn around and treat me like a joke." Her face crumpled, and she sat down on the couch, burying her face in her hands. I could hear her sobbing softly, the sound breaking something inside me. But I didn't feel sympathy. I felt betrayed. I felt hurt. I didn't want to console her. I didn't want to give her the comfort of my forgiveness. I wanted answers. I wanted to understand why this was happening. "It was just a kiss," she whispered through her tears, her voice muffled. "It didn't mean anything. It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't plan it. I swear I didn't." I let out a bitter laugh, my fists clenched at my sides. "A kiss. That's it? So, we're just talking about a kiss? Sophie, come on. I'm not an idiot. I saw the signs. You've been pulling away from me for weeks, months even. You've been avoiding me, acting distant. And now this? You've been seeing him, haven't you? She didn't answer right away, and the silence hung heavy in the room. I could hear her sniffling, but she didn't respond. She didn't need to. I could already tell the truth. I could already see the picture she was trying to paint, and it was one I didn't recognize. She wasn't the person I thought I knew anymore. It was a Wednesday afternoon when this all came crashing down. We'd been together for 3 years. 3 years of shared routines, of laughter over takeout, of weekend trips, and lazy mornings spent wrapped in each other's arms. But now, I felt like I was standing in a house that wasn't mine. Everything felt wrong. She felt wrong. We'd had our share of rough patches. Who doesn't? Relationships aren't perfect, and we'd both been through some heavy stuff. Her parents' divorce, my job stress, a million little arguments that seemed insignificant at the time. But we always managed to get past it. We always came out stronger on the other side. At least that's what I thought. But this wasn't a small fight or a misunderstanding. This was betrayal. This was Sophie, the woman I loved, planning a weekend getaway with the one guy she had told me, over and over again, was just an ex from the past. You've been seeing him behind my back this whole time, I said, the weight of it finally sinking in. You lied to me, Sophie. You chose him over me. You chose this. I'm sorry, she said, barely able to speak through her sobs. I'm so sorry, but I was done. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep waiting for her to change, to finally stop lying, to finally tell me the truth. The woman I thought I knew, the one I'd built my future with, was gone. And there was nothing left to say. I don't know if I can keep doing this, I said, my voice cracking. I don't think I can. I don't know who you are anymore. I walked out, my heart heavy, my chest tight. The apartment felt empty, even though I hadn't even closed the door yet. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't stay. Not anymore. Part 2. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I spent hours lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The image of Sophie crying on the couch burned into my mind. Her face, the broken look in her eyes, the way she'd begged for forgiveness. It was all a blur, but one thing stood out clearly. I didn't believe her anymore. I had to get out. The apartment felt suffocating, like it was closing in on me. Every corner filled with memories of things I couldn't trust anymore. I grabbed my jacket, shoved my keys in my pocket, and left, barely thinking about where I was going. It was close to midnight when I walked to the park nearby, the cold air biting at my skin, but helping to clear the fog in my mind. I spent the next few hours pacing back and forth on the path, trying to make sense of everything. How'd I get here? I kept asking myself. I never thought of Sophie as the type of person who would cheat, or lie, or do something so calculated. Sure, we'd had our moments where things fell off, but I'd always brushed them aside. You're overthinking it, I told myself. She's just going through a phase. Work stress, family drama, whatever. You'll get through it. But now I couldn't ignore it anymore. She'd lied to me, and worse, she hadn't even been honest about the nature of her feelings for Jake. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This wasn't something I could just forgive and forget. There were too many layers to this. She knew what she was doing, and I couldn't just sit here pretending like it was okay, like it hadn't destroyed everything we'd built. When I finally made my way back to the apartment, it was close to 4 a.m. The apartment was dark, the door still ajar, and I knew Sophie was probably asleep, or at least trying to sleep. Part of me wanted to talk to her again, to get more answers, but I couldn't. I couldn't look at her without feeling that heavy, suffocating weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I tried to fall asleep, but it wasn't happening. I lay there, staring at my phone, scrolling through the messages Sophie and I had exchanged over the past few months. There were so many small things I'd missed. Little words here and there, moments where she'd been short with me or distracted. Those were the signs I hadn't seen, the red flags I'd ignored. In hindsight, it was all so clear. The late nights at work that felt too convenient. The sudden need for space after we'd spent so much time talking about moving forward together. But I've been so wrapped up in her, in a version of Sophie I wanted to believe in, that I never stopped to ask myself whether she was really the same person I thought I knew. I started thinking about the trip, the one Sophie had planned with Jake. The confirmation was still on the laptop, right there in front of me. She'd lied about it. She pretended it wasn't anything serious. But if it was so innocent, why hadn't she told me about it sooner? Why was she hiding it? That's when I realized something I hadn't fully put together before. She didn't even try to hide it from me, because she thought she could get away with it. She thought she could keep it under wraps, just long enough to pull it off without me catching on. And maybe she was right. Maybe I was too naive. Maybe I didn't want to see the truth. I grabbed my phone again, this time scrolling through the messages Sophie had sent me the day before. She'd seemed normal then, like nothing was wrong. We talked about work, about plans for the weekend, about us. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? But then I remembered, it wasn't quick. This had been happening for months. Her little emotional withdrawals, the secretive nature of her interactions with Jake. I thought it was just some kind of midlife crisis or something, like she was just figuring herself out. And maybe she was, but not in the way I thought. As much as I hated it, I knew I had to talk to her again. I needed to hear the truth, even if it was something I didn't want to hear. But before I could do that, I had to confront myself. I had to ask myself, why had I stayed so blind to everything? Why hadn't I asked the hard questions? I think, deep down, I knew the answer, because I didn't want to lose her. I didn't want to face the possibility that I wasn't enough for her, that maybe we weren't right for each other after all. And I hated that. I hated that I had let myself get so deep into this relationship without questioning the things I should have seen. The morning came too fast. When I finally dragged myself out of bed, the sunlight coming through the blinds felt harsh, like it was exposing everything that had happened in the dark. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I stared at the phone in front of me. I didn't want to talk to Sophie. Not right now. I didn't even know what I would say. But I couldn't stay quiet either. I had one choice. I had to face her. I had to ask the questions that had been eating at me all night. When I finally heard the sound of footsteps approaching the door, I didn't know whether I was ready for it. Sophie entered the room, her eyes red, her face pale, and it hit me how much I didn't want to be here, in this moment, with this version of her. This wasn't the woman I had loved. This wasn't the woman I thought I knew. She looked at me hesitantly, her hands wringing together. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know how to," she started, but I cut her off. "No, stop. Just stop, Sophie," I said, my voice low but firm. "I need the truth. I need to know everything. No more excuses. No more lies. I need to know how long this has been going on, and I need to know why you did this." Her lips quivered, but she didn't look away. For the first time in a long time, I felt like she was actually seeing me. Maybe that was the worst part of all. I realized, too late, that she hadn't really seen me at all. She hadn't cared about how much I loved her. She hadn't cared about how much we'd built together. All she cared about was the escape she found in Jake. I don't know how to explain it," she said, her voice shaky, her eyes downcast. "It just happened. I didn't want it to, but I couldn't stop it. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't care about the reasons anymore." "I'm done, Sophie," I said quietly, feeling the weight of the words fall like a stone in my chest. "I can't do this. Not anymore." She collapsed into a chair, her face crumpling as she broke down in tears. I didn't move. I couldn't move. My heart ached for her, but at the same time, I was numb. I wasn't sure if I was crying for the loss of her or for the loss of everything we'd had. But the truth was, it didn't matter anymore. I couldn't stay with someone who had so easily turned their back on me. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when it was clear it never had been. "I think it's over," I said finally, my voice breaking, and when I said those words, I knew I meant them. There was no going back. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the trust. It was about the person I thought I knew, the one who would never hurt me like this. And now, standing in front of her, I knew I had to walk away.